This is the Ford Mustang, a car that's been worshipped, ridiculed, crashed into crowds, and somehow after 60 years still refuses to die. Since 1964, it's been America's go-to vehicle for making an entrance, preferably sideways. It's the car of choice for high school quarterbacks, people with midlife crisis, and that one neighbor who revs at 2 AM for absolutely no reason. It's been called a legend, an icon, but also a metaphor for just because you can, doesn't mean you should. And in today's video, I'm gonna be explaining to you guys, how did we get here, and more importantly, why are they still making these? So, the Ford Mustang debuted in 1964 and a half, and America fell in love instantly. It was affordable, stylish, and depending on who you asked, was either the coolest car in the parking lot or just a rolling accessory for your office job. Despite being praised for bringing sports car looks to the masses, the interior was as premium as a used sofa, and the suspension had the refinement of a shopping cart. And while Ford claimed it had great fuel economy, that was only true if you compared it to a steam locomotive. But the worst thing about it was a slight image problem. It was deemed, apparently, a secretary's car. That's not quite a good look, but just as the Mustang was at risk of becoming a permanent fashion statement for the PTA, a certain man joined the table, Carroll Shelby. Shelby took a look at this cute little pony car and decided that it needed to be a bit angry. Thus, the Mustang GT350 was born. With a 4.6 litre V8, making around 306 horsepower, and having the aerodynamic properties of a brick, it became an instant track monster. Then in 1967, we also had this, the GT500, which had an unnecessary massive 7-litre V8 engine under the bonnet, making 355 brake horsepower or probably more, because why not? After all, this was America. And then just to be sure no one called it a secretary car ever again, we got the GT390, the even meaner GT500 KR, the Mark 1 and Boss 302/4209 variants. And each model looked and felt more aggressive, louder and thirstier than the last. Now, was this Ford's way of overcompensating for the secretary car allegations? Maybe, but by 1971, the Mustang was no longer a pony car, it was a land yacht with racing stripes. It gained the respect of many male car enthusiasts, became the hero in many movies like Bullet and Gone in 60 Seconds, and overall turned the Mustang brand into an icon. And then the 1973 oil crisis hit, and suddenly gas-guzzling muscle cars like this weren't so cool anymore. So what did Ford do exactly? Did they refine the Mustang, improve its efficiency, or maybe build a more leaner, focused sports car? No, they did something worse. The 2015 S550 Mustang wasn't just another evolution, it was actually a complete overhaul. Like, for the first time since SN95, the Mustang got independent rear suspension. Yes! After like 50 years of using a live axle because apparently drag races mattered more than basic handling. And now Ford finally gave the Mustang proper rear suspension. Now, traditionalists saw this as some sort of big betrayal. Like, people were wondering, oh, what's next? A front-wheel drive Mustang? An electric Mustang minivan? More on that later. But then people actually drove the new S550 Mustang and saw that having suspension from this century wasn't all that bad. Suddenly the Mustang wasn't just good at driving on a straight line. It could actually take corners without trying to kill you. And this just wasn't America's Mustang anymore. No. For the first time, Mustang was sold globally, not just in Europe, but Asia and Australia. And although there was some skepticism from purists, the world loved it. And that makes the S550 Mustang the best selling of them all, and proving that sometimes progress wasn't that bad after all. And then Shelby returned, again. Well, first we got the GT350, a car with a flat plane crank 5.2 litre V8 that screamed 8,250 RPM like an American Ferrari.
It was raw, visceral, and one of the best driver's cars Ford has ever built. And then in 2020, Ford unleashed the GT500, which ditched the high revving approach and instead went with a supercharged 760 horsepower V8 because
subtlety was never in their vocabulary.
It was an absolute monster, capable of destroying tires, racetracks, and your bank account in record time.
The Mustang was at the top of the world. It had conquered the muscle car wars, gone global, and overall just became a great performance machine. For 60 years, this car had been an icon, a bloody cultural movement on wheels. Since its debut in 1964 and a half, this car wasn't always just about going fast. It was about being fun, having style, affordability, performance, being all about bang for your buck, and just enough rebellion to make your parents feel nervous. For as long as Ford keeps making these, until the government bans petrol cars, people will keep buying the Mustang, people will keep modifying the Mustang, and yes, people will crash Mustangs into cars and coffee meetups. Because it isn't just a car,